Namaste, Dhanavat Pranam. We are here by the instruction of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 14, Text 42. Ditir Uvacha Vadham Bhagavatat Sakshat Sunha Bodhara Bahuna Asashe Putra Yormayam Makrudhad Pramanhad Prabhu. Diti said, "It is very good that my sons will be magnanimously killed by the arms of the personality of Godhead with his Sudarshan weapon. O my husband, may they never be killed by the wrath of the Brahmana devotees." Purport. When Diti heard from her husband that the great souls would be angered by the activities of her son, she was very anxious. She thought that her sons might be killed by the wrath of the Brahmanas. The Lord does not appear when the Brahmanas become angry at someone, because the wrath of a Brahmana is sufficient in itself. He certainly appears, however, when his devotee simply becomes sorry. A devotee of the Lord never prays to the Lord to appear for the sake of the troubles of the miscreants caused for him, and he never bothers him by asking for protection. Rather, the Lord is anxious to give protection to the devotees. Diti knew well that the killing of her sons by the Lord would also be his mercy, and therefore she says that the wheel and arms of the Lord are magnanimous. If someone is killed by the wheel of the Lord, it is thus fortunate enough to see the arms of the Lord. That is sufficient for his liberation. Such good fortune is not achieved even by the great sages. Text 43. Na brahma danda dagdasya, na bhuto bhaya dasya cha, narakas chanu grinanti, yam yam yonim asogata. A person who is condemned by a Brahmana or is always fearful to other living entities is not favored either by those who are already in hell or by those in the species in which he is born. Purport. A practical example of a condemned species of life is the dog. Dogs are so condemned that they never show any sympathy to their contemporaries. Text 44 through 45. Kasyapa uvacha kritaso kanutapena sadhya pratyavamarsanat bhagavachuru manachcha bhave mayapi chadarat putrashaiva cha putranam bhavityaika satamata kasyanti hadyasa sudham bhagavadyasa samam. The learned Kasyapa said, because of your lamentation, penitence, and proper deliberation, and also because of your unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your adoration for Lord Shiva and me, one of the sons, Prahlad, of your son, Hiranyakashipu, will be an approved devotee of the Lord, and his fame will be broadcast equally with that of the personality of Godhead. Text 46. Yogarhimeva durvarnam bhavayasyanti sadhava nirvar adibir atmanam yachchilam anuvartitum. In order to follow in his footsteps, saintly persons will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity, just as the purifying process rectify gold of inferior quality. Purport. Yoga practice, the process of purifying one's existential identity, is based mainly on self-control. Without self-control, one cannot practice freedom from animosity. In the conditional state, every living being is envious of another living being. But in the liberated state, there is absence of animosity. Prahlad Maharaj was tortured by his father in so many ways. Yet after the death of his father, he prayed for his father's liberation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He did not ask any benediction that he might have asked, but he prayed that his atheistic father might be liberated. He never cursed any of the persons who engaged in torturing him at the instigation of his father. 47. Yat prashadhadidam vishvam prasidati yad atmakam sasvadrig bhagavanyasya tosyate nanya yadrisha. Everyone will be pleased with him because the personality of Godhead, the supreme controller of the universe, is always satisfied with a devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. Purport. The supreme personality of Godhead is situated everywhere as the supersoul, and he can dictate to anyone and everyone as he likes. The would-be grandson of Diti, who is predicted to be a great devotee, would be liked by everyone, even by the enemies of his father, because he would have no other vision besides the supreme personality of Godhead. A pure devotee of the Lord sees the presence of his worshipable Lord everywhere. The Lord reciprocates in such a way that all living entities in whom the Lord is dwelling as the supersoul also like a pure devotee, because the Lord is present in their hearts and can dictate to them to be friendly to his devotee. There are many instances in history wherein even the most ferocious animal became friendly to a pure devotee of the Lord. Text 48. Sabhai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahatam Mahishta Pravridha Bhaktya Hyanu Bhavitasye Nivesha Vaikuntam Imam Vihasyati. The topmost devotee of the Lord will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence, and will be the greatest of the great souls. Due to matured devotional service, he will certainly be situated in transcendental ecstasy and will enter the spiritual sky after quitting this material world. Purport. There are 3 stages of transcendental development in devotional service, which are technically called Sthayi Bhava, Anubhava, and Mahabhava. Continual perfect love of Godhead is called Sthayi Bhava, and when it is performed in a particular type of transcendental relationship, it is called Anubhava. But the stage of Mahabhava is visible amongst the personal pleasure potencies of the Lord. It is understood that the grandson of Diti, namely Prahlad Maharaj, would constantly meditate on the Lord and reiterate his activities. Because he would constantly remain in meditation, he would easily transfer himself to the spiritual world after quitting his material body. Such meditation is still more conveniently performed by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord. This is especially recommended in this age of Kali. Text 49. Alam patashila daro gunakaro Vrista paradhya vyatito dukhiteshu Abhuta satrur jagata sokaharta Naidhagikam tapam evo durhaja. He will be virtuously qualified reservoir of all good qualities. He will be jolly and happy in others' happiness, distressed in others' distress, and will have no enemies. He will be a destroyer of the lamentation of all the universes, like the pleasant moon after the summer sun. Purport. Prahlad Maharaj, the exemplary devotee of the Lord, had all good qualities humanly possible. Although he was the emperor of this world, he was not profligate. Beginning from his childhood, he was the reservoir of all good qualities. Without enumerating those qualities, it is said here summarily that he was endowed with all good qualities. That is the sign of a pure devotee. The most important characteristic of a pure devotee is that he is not a lampata or licentious And another quality is that he is always eager to mitigate the miseries of suffering humanity. The most obnoxious misery of a living entity is his forgetfulness of Krishna. A pure devotee, therefore, always tries to evoke everyone's Krishna consciousness. This is the panacea for all miseries. Text 50. Antarbahis chamalam abjanetram svapuruse chanu grihita rupam otrastava shri lalana lalamam drastas furat kundala manditanam. Your grandson will be able to see inside and outside the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose wife is the beautiful goddess of fortune. The Lord can assume the form desired by the devotee, and his face is always beautifully decorated with earrings. Purport. It is predicted herewith that the grandson of Diti, Prahlad Maharaj, would not only see the personality of Godhead within himself by meditation, but would also be able to see him personally with his eyes. This direct vision is possible only for one who is highly elevated in Krishna consciousness. For the Lord is not possible to see with material eyes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has multifarious eternal forms such as Krishna, Baladev, Sankarsana, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, Narayan, Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Vamana. And the devotees of the Lord know all those Vishnu forms. A pure devotee becomes attached to one of the eternal forms of the Lord, and the Lord is pleased to appear before him in the form desired. A devotee does not imagine something whimsical about the form of the Lord, nor does he think about the Lord as impersonal and can assume a form desired by the non-devotee. The non-devotee has no idea of the form of the Lord, and thus he cannot think of any one of the above-mentioned forms. But whenever a devotee sees the Lord, he sees him in a most beautifully decorated form, accompanied by his constant companion, the goddess of fortune, who is eternally beautiful. Text 51. Maitreya uvacha Shrutva Bhagavatam Potram Amhodata Brisham Putrayostravadham Krishnad Viditvasin Mahamana. The sage Maitreya said, hearing that her grandson would be a great devotee and that her sons would be killed by Krishna, Diti was highly pleased in mind. Purport. Diti was very aggrieved to learn that because of her untimely pregnancy, her sons would be demons and would fight with the Lord. But when she heard that her grandson would be a great devotee and that her 2 sons would be killed by the Lord, she was pacified. She was very satisfied. As the wife of a great sage and the daughter of great Prajapati, Daksha, she knew that being killed by the personality of Godhead is a great fortune. Since the Lord is absolute, his acts of violence and nonviolence are both on the absolute platform. There is no difference in such acts of the Lord. Mundane violence and nonviolence have nothing to do with the Lord's acts. A demon killed by him attains the same result as one who attains liberation after many, many births of penance and austerity. The word Brisham is significant herein because it indicates that Diti was pleased beyond her expectations. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from chapter 15, text 1 on Monday. Prabhu, are there any comments or questions before we close?
I was just reminded there, you were saying that the devotee, even wild animals, become submissive to the pure devotee. I was reminded of the tale from the Bible when I think it was Daniel and the lion, and Daniel meets a lion out in the forest, and the lion is poorly, and Daniel examines it and it has a thorn in its foot. So Daniel takes the thorn out, and then later on, a while later, Daniel is actually captured and he's thrown to the lions in the Colosseum, and the lion is coming out to attack him, but it's the same line he remembered that he took the thorn out, so the line left him be. So again, it was a pure devotee. Was the line became submissive to him.
Jai, Prabhu, very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh.
Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhav Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadut Dham Ki Jai, Nrsimhapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi, Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan, Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund, Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Jai Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol.
Hari Bol.
Dandava Pranam Prabhu.